Welcome to Let's Get Writing Presents Author Reads. And my guest today is Dr. Dawn Hodder. Welcome, Dr. Hodder.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. And if you haven't seen it, we did two shows, not one, but two with Dr. Hodder to talk about the writing of his two books, Follow Your Bliss and Leftover Stew. And this part is one of my favorite parts of what we offer, because our authors read from their books. And if you haven't read these books yet or haven't heard anything, you're going to get a chance to do that today, because Dr. Dawn, you're going to take it away and read and maybe tell us a little bit about what you are going to read.
Well, these books were written as a legacy project for my kids and grandkids, and 150 years from now, as we look back and say, Pop Hodder had a wonderful life, right? He did some magnificent things, and I'm been so blessed that I came from very humble circumstances, and I was able to get a formal education that none of my relatives, none of my ancestors ever had the opportunity to do. So this was written for my colleagues, my family, and sometimes for people I don't know and will never meet. Because the stories, there's some universality about these stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and boy does well.
Yes.
In spite of challenges. That's what I think, right?
That's you.
That's me. Thank you. So, first of all, I would read a little bit from the preface to the first book. By the way.
And you know, we never did get that into the interview, so please.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a copy of a book. This is one of the books that we had at our launch for this book 3 years ago. And the lady who was managing the launch, she said, Dr. Hodder, why don't you put a book out that people can write in the book? And they then that'll be a legacy project for your kids or grandkids as well. So all through this book, there are pages and pages of people that wrote their names and made comments. And when I did some presentations at drugstores and so on,
Mm-hmm.
And they would come and buy a book, and then they would sign it and say congratulations or whatever.
Here, can we hold this up so people can see it a bit better?
Yeah, yes.
Here, I'll do that. I'm just going to step up here so you can see all the signatures on the book, and look amazing. So I agree. What a great idea.
It was really great.
A really great idea. Here's some more here. So
this goes through the book, various places from the back to the front. So there's a lot of signatures. Way over here, you can see the same thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
that's great.
That's the first book, and this was written as a legacy project, and I'm going to read from the preface, and it basically is a culinary metaphor to invite you to my table of life. And so I say, and so I invite you to sit at my table of memories with its bowls of blessings, its platters of pleasantries, its casseroles of kindness, its ladles of laughter, its tureens of trouble and tribulation, even its dishes of dissertation and discussion, all seasoned with sips of sorrow and silliness. And so there are parts of this book that are really serious, and there are parts that are just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read now from the second book. By the way, why do we call this Leftover Stew? It's got nothing to do with, not a cookbook. Although people who read the book will find the very first story, and it has to do with a story about my sister and me when we were 10 and 12 years old. When our parents wrote one night, we decided to bake a cake. It was a total disaster. If you saw it on television, you would be cracking with laughter, right?
Who wouldn't be on Canada's Best Chef?
No. Anyway, so what I thought I would read here, I've lost it now. There we are. As I said, some is very serious, some is very silly. So this is the 10 Commandments for family doctors. Learn to laugh with your patients, never at them. It's okay to shed a tear. It's okay to say, I'm sorry. Be grateful. Say thank you. Keep a civil tongue in your head, even when you desperately want to scream some obscenity. Sometimes it's happened to me. Bite your tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rejoice with those who do rejoice. It's a wonderful thing to be able to see people recover from serious conditions and things turn out well. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So then you have to shed the tears. No one expects perfection, but an honest, earnest effort is a must. Practice compassion. People will know long after you've gone that you tried your best. You were with them. They will remember how kind you were long after they forget how smart you were.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. You're expected to be smart. You're expected to know answers to difficult questions. But the attitude that you take is just as important. And part of that is in the Hippocratic Oath, which says that a kind spirit is often as efficient, as effective as the chemist drugs. And it's true. No one expects perfection, but an honest, earnest effort is a must. I get that. Remember that and this is serious, remember that your patients will grow old along with you and that you and they will. It's a natural cycle. And be aware of wonder. There are wonderful things that are happening that will gladden your heart on any given day. So that's the series.
So did you have those principles when you started out, or was something you found along the way, or?
I don't know. This is stuff I sat down one day and made up, but I'm sure other people have done the same thing.
Wait, you wrote those yourself?
I did.
Oh, okay. All right.
I probably forgot some stuff.
Yeah, because when we were talking, I thought you found them somewhere, so you actually wrote those. So that was, okay, we're going to dig into this just a bit. So that was how you based your approach to medicine and your patients and your principles.
I tried. Now, if you look at the Canadian Medical Association, its motto is Integritate et Misericordia, which translates to English as integrity and mercy or compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So every doctor should try that, right? I mean, that's part of the deal. You've got to be honest and you've got to be compassionate. I've tried, but you can't make everybody happy every day.
No.
That's not going to happen. But you've got to give your best shot.
Okay.
And so that's a serious thing.
Yeah, but a very, very nice share. Yeah.
Now, one day last summer, I think it was last summer, this little thing came in my head, and I sat down at the kitchen table, and in about an hour and a half, I wrote a little nonsense poem for Mary Jane, our granddaughter. She's 8 at the time, and her cousin, Catherine. Both of them call us Nanny and Poppy. So they're very special little girls. So this was written for 2 little girls named Mary Jane and Catherine. It's one of those little nonsense poems like you read sometimes in various magazines and so on. And it says, not last night, but the night before, 3 little puppies came to my door. The first was blue and the second was green, the strangest thing I'd ever seen. The third was purple, but his tail was white, and on the tip was a blinking light. My name is Charlie, the blue one said. I'd really like some jam and bread. Even if it's just one slice, and a bowl of milk would be so nice. Up popped the one with the greenish fur. There's something different I'd prefer. Do you suppose that you could make a great big juicy carrot cake? My name is Ella, and I like things sweet for energy to dance my feet. Next came the one with the purple head, who blinked the message with his tail instead. My name is Rudy, and I'd like some ham or a side of bacon or a leg of lamb. So I let them in for a bite to eat and watched them as they wiped their feet. So they all sat down by the big TV and waited very patiently. When the meal was ready, they ate quite well and were happy as far as I could tell. But when each one saw what the others had, their attitude turned really bad. I want some of that, they all chimed in. I've changed my mind. Let's start again. I didn't like that attitude, which I thought was really rude. Would you please leave and close the door and don't come back here anymore? But they wouldn't leave. And then instead, they jumped up on my feather bed and planned to stay throughout the night and wouldn't leave without a fight. So I got the broom and swished it fast and tried to chase them, but alas, they were so swift, and soon came trouble. They had clearly burst my bubble. I didn't know that dogs could fly up to the ceiling or the sky. They flew up to the chandelier and threatened me with teeth severe. Then they all leaped down upon my head, and that's when I fell out of bed. As I awoke, I began to scream. That was such an awful dream.
I think that could be a great kid's book.
It could be a great kid.
Yeah.
All you need is somebody with artistic, so a line or two on each page, and you've got yourself
Yeah, you got yourself a book, quite an entertaining,
a
funny
little thing
book.
for 6 or 8 year olds.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway,
So, a little summary on how you would describe leftover stew. What will people find in there?
leftover stew really is it's a metaphor for stuff that you cook a meal stew, shall we say, or whatever, and you don't eat it all at one time. Next day you have it for lunch or supper or whatever, and it's just as good as it was the night before, sometimes better. So a lot of this stuff that's in this, not all of it, but a lot of this was left over from the first book, because the publisher said your book is going to be too big. It's almost 500 pages as it is. So he persuaded me to cut it back, and so this is some of the stuff that's left over. Then over the last couple of years, I'm writing other stuff, and that makes up leftover stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the writing hasn't stopped, I understand. There's still another book coming?
Well, I'm 82 years old, so I got to have a project now to make it to 85.
Sure.
So I've got a book in the works now that's, I've probably got, a dozen pages or so, maybe a couple of dozen pages. It's called A Treasury of Wonder, Wit, and Wisdom. Some of it's wonderful stuff that's happened in the world, like, for example, the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
Mm-hmm.
Little peculiar, nerdy stuff. Where did we get the days of the week in English? Okay, what should I tell them?
Well, you can.
Okay,
It's a reveal.
Some of them
know.
already know this, right? Now, if you're in Japan, or if you're in France, or if you're in Germany, or wherever, you got different names for the days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been changed. And of course, we have different calendars all over the world. But for international benefits of business and so on, they've taken the Gregorian calendar, which came out in the 1500s. Anyway, so the days of the week. Well, of course, in ancient times, first the Babylonians started this with 7 days, because why was it 7? What's magical about 7? Well, in ancient times, you look up in the sky at night and see all these stars, but then you saw 7 heavenly bodies that you could see with your eyes, and they were moving around, and they were the sun and the moon and 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
So people started naming the days of the week. Then was 7. That's a mystical number. Think about all the things in life that's got 7 associated with it, or 12, or 60 is another one. Babylonian 7. Anyway, so in English, the days of the week, you got Sunday, named after the sun, which was the god of many ancient civilizations. You got moon, Monday. You got Tuesday. Okay, let's go to Wednesday first.
Okay.
Wednesday is named after Odin, who was the Scandinavian Norse god, main guy, just like Zeus in ancient Greece, or Jupiter in Rome. So that's Woden's day. Because think about it, a lot of English came from the Vikings, right? Who brought their ideas with them. So you have Woden. Then we'll skip to Friday. Woden had a wife named Frigga. And of course, she was the goddess of beauty and creation and all this kind of stuff, right? So we got Friday, but they had 2 sons. One was named Tiew, Tiew, and so he was the god of something, I forget now. And so you had Tuesday, in Old English,
Mhm.
and Tuesday in Modern English. And then you had Woden's Day. Then you had Thursday, named after Thor, another god, another son of Woden and Frigga. And so that was Thor was the god of thunder and lightning and agriculture. Actually, made the rains come, so things would grow. And then we have Saturn. Saturn is named after one of the planets in ancient Rome. Saturn was also the god of making things grow and agriculture and so on. Matter of fact, one of the big festivals in ancient Rome was called Saturnalia, which happened around Christmas time. And a lot of the celebrations that the Christians had developed over the years were things that happened in ancient Rome as part of Saturnalia, one of the planets. So they got days a week. So that's a little bit of nerdy stuff.
You're like a walking encyclopedia.
So they got wonder, wit, and wisdom. And so that's what I'm working on. Right?
Excellent. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's like having Wikipedia here right next to me in the chair.
I forget a lot of stuff, I really do.
Well, you said you're 82. I think you remember a lot more than you forget. Mm.
So.
Well, thank you very much for sharing the reading. And folks, if you're interested in the books, they are available. There's a link. You can write to Dr. Hodder. We'll give you a link right to his email to request this book. He will get it to you. It's available locally in the central Newfoundland area, but available to anyone, anywhere in the world, anywhere you see this show. If you'd like to have a copy of the book, just email and you will make sure.
Can I give the email address?
Sure you can. I would put it up if I had the ability to do this right now.
It's Hodder, Hodder, Hodder218 at gmail.com.
Hodder218@gmail.com.
And so far, I've sent the books as far as St. John's on the east, and Vancouver in the west, and Alabama in the south, and Goose Bay in the north.
Well, let's see where the book can go. And if you're wondering more about the books, we have 2 great shows on Let's Get Writing, Part 1 and Part 2, with Dr. Hodder, where we talk about the process of his books. And this book, Follow Your Bliss, yes, it does feel like 501 pages for sure. This book is available on Amazon.ca and also FrisianPress.com, I believe it is. But they have a website as well.
They do.
Yeah, and it's as an ebook. Great. Well, thank you so much for reading from your books. There's nothing like hearing an author read some of their own work. Really appreciate your time today.
It's a joy, and I thank you again for having me in.
Oh.
I really had a good time.
Me too. Yeah. Write another book. We'll do it again.
We'll do it again. Well, this is my project for the next 3 years now. I'm 82. I got to make 85.
Yeah.
But I got to have something to do in the meantime.
Oh, there you go. You always have to have something to do. There's 3 things: someone to love, something to do, something to look forward to. So we shall look forward to the next time with Dr. Hodder.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for joining us. I'm Catherine Taylor, and this is Let's Get Writing, Author Reads. Have a nice day.